And welcome to the first Pens Cast Mailbag of the year 2024. We are back after a week off for the Christmas holiday. It is January 2nd, so we are already on day two of the new year. And before we get to the questions, you'll notice there's just two of us here this evening. Garrett's still recovering from his New Year's Eve festivities, according to reports coming out of the Pittsburgh area. A little too heavy on the bottle on Sunday night, so Garrett's still taking some time to recover there. But for now, you got me and Snail here tonight. And before we get to answering some of your questions, Snail, how was your Christmas/New Year's holiday?
It was just what the doctor ordered, Robbie. It was awesome. I love spending time with family. I love. I didn't really see too many buddies actually over the break, but kept up with a lot of them and exchanged Merry Christmases and Happy New Years and spent some time with mostly just family and just by myself, kind of just chilling, resetting, reloading for the 2024 year and. Yeah, it was much needed, man. I feel good. It's nice to be back too. I missed you guys. It was lame not answering these questions for that week and a half. So, what about you, man? How was your Christmas and New Year's?
Yeah, just about the same. Love spending time with the fam. It's a good chance just to kind of slow down and reset and get ready for the new year. And I mean, I guess it helped that we got some good Penguins hockey in
Yes.
between Christmas and the New Year as well. We'll talk about that um, after the Capitals game tonight. You and I can sit down and we'll just do a triple header recap of the weekend and the Capitals game tonight and kind of get back in the saddle there. But yeah, I mean, it was a good time, good food, good company, good time to just kind of relax, reset, and get ready for the new year. And now here we are.
For sure. I need to probably get a little bit active soon because I was enjoying myself a little bit too much over the break. So much good food. I've
So
been
much food.
just drinking a bunch of beers
Yeah.
and mixed drinks and then last night I was like I had a couple more drinks last night. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna engage in the accumulative sorrow that like the hangovers of the New Year's Day. So I just kind of like went back at it, and today I'm like, dude, I feel like I have a robin's belly now. I feel like I'm a little swollen blueberry right now, and I need to sweat. I need to get a little bit active. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get into these questions, Robbie.
Yep.
Like I said, I'm stoked to be back.
Absolutely. All right, I'll take question number one. This is from Brian. I believe a quick glance. These are all Brian questions in part one here. Brian asks, except for a few teams, is this the most wide open the league has been on who could win the cup? And Brian, I'm not even sure that it's a few teams that are pulling away. It definitely feels like it is a very wide open type of season. I mean, you have teams that are kind of establishing themselves. I mean, Boston has a decent lead in that division, but again, that's still only 4 points. The Rangers are probably the team that has pulled away the most in their division. They have a 7 point lead with some games in hand, so they are doing a little bit better there. Out west, Colorado is really, I mean, they're leading that division, but they're only up by a point. And Vancouver, Vegas are knotted at the top of the Pacific Division. So, yeah, it doesn't really feel like there's one team that's pulling away at all. It does not feel like a Boston of last year by any means, obviously. They were not going to repeat what they did last year. And after the way their season ended, I'm not sure they would have wanted to. But, I mean, the Rangers have made a lot of noise, but um, uh, yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel like one team has really stood out above all the rest, and that makes for a very interesting not only playoffs but even second half of this season here. Everybody's kind of jam packed into this into these races here. I mean, from first until down to seventh, where the Penguins are in the Metro Division is only separated by 11 points, and between second and seventh is only a 4 point spread. So it's a very tight. It doesn't feel like anybody's really pulling away. If you had to pick a favorite, you probably say someone like the Rangers or Boston. But I mean, I really feel like it's anybody's game as we get into 2024 here, and that makes it really exciting.
Robbie, quickly, are you buying what's going on in Vancouver right now?
I mean,
Is that the real deal? Is that are they? Do you think that's sustainable for them? Like, are they
they're
gonna? Are they having a
seven
historic season?
7-1-2 in their last 10. I mean, at some point, it's not a fluke anymore, right? I mean, if you do that over 10 games, again, I don't think I'm not sure with their experience if I would take them in like a 7 game series against like a Vegas. And with the way Edmonton's playing, I don't even know I necessarily take them in a 7 game series against the current Edmonton Oilers, but they're a playoff team,
They
and
are.
they're a playoff team, and they're going to be there. Again, people have been kind of trying to detract on them all season, saying it's all a facade. But right now, if they were to make the playoffs, I believe they would be facing the Arizona Coyotes. They are the
Hmm.
um, technically Vancouver would have the 1 seed in the West taking on the Coyotes, and I would have to be partial to taking
Right.
the Canucks in that series. Again, I don't. Again, the Coyotes I think might be a little bit of a facade. I don't know if they are a playoff team when it comes to April, but if that was the matchup right now, I'd have to take the Canucks, and I would probably not take them against the Golden Knights in a 7 game series in a second round matchup, but would not surprise me if Vancouver won that. I think at this point, at some point, it's no longer a fluke. Maybe playing a little over their heads, but at the same time, you got to give them credit. At some point, it's more than just um, it's more than just a facade. There's some real talent and real good work going on there.
Maybe it's just because I'm out west. There's a lot of buzz around the Canucks right now,
Oh, I'm sure.
I hear it every time I turn on whatever. There's a lot of buzz about the Canucks, and I'm not buying it fully yet. I just don't know how like a guy like Tyler Myers turns into like a top defenseman like overnight. Like the Tocchet effect could be very real there. But I mean, it is wide open and it's kind of interesting. I think it's great. I think it's awesome. The parody right now. I hear that word a lot regarding the
Yeah.
NHL. The parody. It seemed in the beginning of the year it was like all Vegas. It was like all Vegas and Boston or whatever. But it's awesome to see how wide open it is. Who was your cup favorite at the beginning of the year?
I mean, I kind of had Carolina and Florida in that mix.
I remember
Yeah.
you specifically were not. You were like you didn't trust Edmonton, and then that start they had, I was like, oh man,
Well, I
Robbie.
just don't trust Edmonton because of their historic, like just their history since like the '80s. Like McDavid's fantastic, obviously. So is Drysaitel. There's plenty of talent there, but it always seems to be the goaltending or the defense or something. And I was kind of vindicated by that start. And again, they're probably I'm gonna guess they're gonna be in the playoffs by the time it's all said and done. Just too much talent in a not super great division. So yeah, I think they're gonna be there. But again, until they can prove as a team, and this isn't on McDavid or Drysaitel, they can prove that they are more than just a second round uh, team. That's what they are to me, and that's why I would not put them as one of my cup favorites.
Makes sense.
All right, question number 2 here from Snail. This is going from Brian again, obviously, and this is going up to Seattle Snail's neck of the woods with the Winter Classic. Whose entrance for the Winter Classic did you like more? Seattle being coming as fisherman was pretty good, but Vegas being Elvis is a classic.
I mean, come on, I'm super biased here. The
Yeah.
fisherman look was sick. I love that they were. Robbie, are you familiar with the salmon chucking that goes on at Pike Place Market in Seattle?
Oh yeah, I'm very familiar with the tradition of the salmon chuck at the Pike Place Market.
Yeah. So when they were coming in, they were throwing the little stuffed salmons or whatever out to some of the fans. I think it's awesome. I have I've been very open on here with my qualms regarding Seattle, and just how I've seen it change over my lifespan, and it's disappointing. But I still I love it here. There's a reason why I
Yeah.
haven't really left or anything like that. So I'm biased. I think that I thought it was a nice touch for the salmon chuckers and the Kraken. But dude, like what? Maybe I know nothing about Elvis really, so maybe I'm super naive. But like, isn't Elvis from like Tennessee?
Elvis is from Memphis, but he is definitely a that's where you'll see the fake Elvises all dressed up on the strip and
Oh,
stuff.
the
Um,
impersonators.
the impersonators, yes, I would agree with you on the take though of the fisherman, just because that is very classic. Seattle, you have your crab fishermen, your your salmon fishermen, like you have all that.
Oh yeah.
It's very in tune with the culture of Seattle, and I think that is very cool.
I think it's cool too. I think that I take that 100 times over the Elvis impersonation. Also, I'm just not super partial to Vegas, but
Mm.
whatever. We'll move on. Here's question number 3 from Brian. This would be going to Garrett, but Garrett is not with us today. Um, Brian asks, "What is the most random thing you've ever seen at a sporting event?" Brian says he once saw a guy wearing a Johnny
Unite.
Unitas
Yep, you're right.
Johnny Unitas jersey at a Pens game. So first of all, before we get into this, Robbie, who is Johnny Unitas?
Johnny Unitas was a NFL quarterback from like the 50s, 60s, so we're going way back there. He played one of the first Super Bowls. So yeah, that's definitely would be an odd jersey to see at a game.
Did he play for the Steelers?
No, but he's from the Western Pennsylvania area.
Oh, okay, that makes a little bit of
Yeah.
sense.
Um, yeah, and yeah, Garrett says my in-person sporting event experiences have largely been run of the mill. I didn't really have one weird experience that stands out from the rest. Discuss amongst yourselves. I've seen some, oh man, some bizarre, like just mostly just people that have had way too much to drink, being kind of uh, buffoons. One time in a game, this was probably 10 years ago or more at this point. Guy in front of me was just gone, just annihilated. And he was just trying to basically coach the team from the second deck. And I think he just got to the point where everybody around him was just wishing that he would like go get a beer and just not come back. He was just so violently annoying, and it was just, yeah, that was one that sticks out. But another one for me is this. I'm switching sports here. I'm going to baseball. I once attended an 18 inning baseball game.
Wow.
Yeah, it was for a friend's birthday. This was like back in high school. The game went 18 innings. The Pirates thankfully won in 18 innings. That is probably the wildest um, uh, type sporting experience I had, just because of you just don't see that in the majors very often. So that was one that really sticks out to me.
Dude, 18 innings, you got your money's worth for
And it's
that one.
basically two baseball games. Yep.
Do they open up the concessions again in extra innings?
The food concessions again. This was actually before um, teams had like policies in effect where beer closed at like the seventh inning or
Before
stuff.
baseball got soft.
Yeah, I don't know if they stayed open, like the beer stayed open all 18 innings, but I don't believe they closed at like the seventh inning. I think they stayed open later than normal, but I do know the food concessions will stay open for something like that. They don't have those shut off.
As they should, honestly.
Yeah.
Dude, I got a couple. Again, um I've never really seen anything that egregious at like a hockey game. Like, I mean, I've seen a nothing egregious at a hockey game. Growing up, went to a lot of baseball games. I was a huge baseball fan growing up. The Mariners, they still sucked, but they were more relevant than they've been over the last 20 years. You probably know some of those teams. Mariners were must watch for a long time. I saw he's a general manager. Do you know Rocco Baldelli?
Yeah, I know who Rockabo. Yeah.
So I was at a game when he was playing for, I believe it was like one of the, I think Tampa,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw him go to catch a routine fly ball, but the roof was open at Safeco Field,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
the ball hit him in the forehead. And I just remember
Oh.
I was in the outfield, and I tracked the fly ball and everything, and I seen it hit him in the head, and he freaked out when he. I thought that was crazy. There's that, and then I'll throw it way back. So I think my first game I ever went to at the Kingdom. You remember the Kingdom out in Seattle? Did you
I
ever
know.
hear?
I remember watching the implosion.
Yeah, that was a big deal. I was at the Kingdom and I went to go use the bathroom, and there
Oh,
was
jeez.
I went to the urinal and someone had laid a moose in the urinal, and I just remember being quite
Oh,
young at that time and
yeah.
being just like, I was really shocked. I was like, why is there a poop in the urinal? Like this is, can you do that? How did it get there? And just being like, I don't know. I probably had to be like I had to have like a moment to like gather myself and be as a child and just being like, why was that there? Why is that so big? Like,
Yeah.
so that's probably one of the more egregious things I've seen at a sporting event. Also at the Kingdom, I I think there were these weird urinals in there too, like in certain bathrooms, where it was like this circular trough. So you would be like peeing in this
Mm,
thing, but you'd be staring. Someone could be staring at you from across the urinal and being like
yeah.
super confused as to how those worked.
That's yeah, that just a very I mean, I understand they do it for efficiency and space and get as many people crammed in there as once, but like I feel like there's definitely a certain limit to my comfortability staring at another human while I'm uh taking a
While you're
piss
hosing
or
off, yeah, I don't.
yeah. Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, what's next? Open stall doors? That would be even worse. But like, yeah,
no
that's
stalls, just like
just troughs that you take a dump. Yeah,
yeah, military style, just like all
yeah,
lined up.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so yeah, ours are way better than Garrett's. Jeez.
Garrett's boring. What the heck?
Yeah. All right. This question's for you, Robbie. We're going to question number 4 here. And Brian wonders if you've been paying attention to the World Juniors at all. Has anyone stood out to you from the World Juniors in your opinion?
Braden Yeager, baby.
Yeah, I saw
Um,
that snipe.
yeah, Braden Yeager. Obviously, again, Canada did lose, which LOL. But um, Yeager's been that's really what I've been paying the most attention to has been Braden Yeager
Yeah.
in this tournament. Um, there's been a lot of talent on the USA side as well, but every time it seems like a USA guy does well, I look at the team who they're playing for, and it's like the Rangers or the Flyers or someone in the Penguins division, maybe the Blue Jackets or someone. I'm like, man, can't anybody else have? Why does every team in the Metro have to have a deep talent pool? And the Penguins are like Braden Yeager's the first like prospect that's played in the World Juniors in like 10 years. It's been um like has a decent name behind him and some like big hope behind him. But no, Yeager has been really good for Team USA, not just shooting either, which he knows about. He's been very good passing the puck. And I haven't watched like every game. I did catch some of the USA games, but I mean overall, um, just happy to see uh, Braden Yeager doing well, and hopefully that now carries over to him back at the junior level when he gets back to North America. So that's basically my take on that. Uh, I guess we can just kind of Brian here. How was everyone's holidays? I think we kind of hit on this in the intro, but
Yeah.
um,
We ate, we drank, and we were merry.
perfect. I'll
We
let.
hope that everyone else had good holidays
Yes,
as well.
absolutely. We hope you had a good holiday, and if you didn't, Uh,
Sorry.
hope the rest of your year's better. But Brian, I'm sure that being a male guy, the weeks leading up to Christmas were probably absolute nightmare for Brian.
Oh yeah, good point.
So hopefully Brian got some chance to rest and relax. But since that question was pretty quick for us, you can answer Garrett's next question, which is question number 6. Does it surprise you that the Penguins have the largest Instagram following out of all the NHL teams?
Yeah, that does actually really surprise me. Not that they shouldn't have a large following on social media. It's just there's two things that are shocking to me about it. And one is that like you would think like Toronto, like a team that like represents like, I mean, I'm sure a lot of Canadians will like hate me for this. And the last thing I want is Canadians coming at me because I love Canada. But like Toronto is like Canada's team. Like even out on the west in Canada, people there's like diehard Leaf fans. They're like the Yankees. They have a huge market, and you'd think it would be like a Toronto or like I don't know, Vancouver. That's another powerhouse out on the west.
Yeah.
Edmonton, just with their history, you'd think the Canadians would all come together and they would like have these mass followings on social media. Down here, I don't know, the Chicago Blackhawks or the New York Rangers, who are just like very important to their communities. Not that the Penguins aren't important to their community, but even like the Kraken with the kind of like the way that they took off with or Vegas or Seattle
Mhm.
with kind of these new teams coming out while social media is very much in everyone's pocket. You'd think it'd be maybe one of those guys, but okay. And the second part to that was you're kind of I'm kind of shocked that there's no uh or like the Penguins don't really do a ton on social media other than like post scores. Garrett says, yes, I'm not exactly sure how it's happened, but credit to friend of the pod, Andy Perlman.
Yep.
Is that how you say it? Andy
Yeah,
Perlman?
you're good. Yep.
And the Penguins digital team for curating top of the line digital content. So Garrett likes the way everything looks on there.
Yeah, I got to say we had this is going back before I was the regular co-host. Um, Andy is like their director of. At that time, she was head of new media, which is basically social media and stuff like that. I don't know what her title is at the moment, but she was ahead of all that, and she came on. She was a guest that we had on, and she kind of explained everything they did, and basically you got to be ready at the gun for just about anything. Those trades that come down out of nowhere, you got to get the press release out, a graphic for all your socials. It's a pretty intense job, and she has a very dedicated team doing it. And yeah, they do a great job. So credit to Andy, friend of the pod, been on before. She was great to talk to. So
Shout out
yeah,
Andy.
yeah, Andy does a great job, and it's a tireless job, and you don't always get the props for it because it's all behind the scenes. But she's always been really solid.
All right, I think this is for you.
Yes, yep.
This is again from Brian. This one is a doozy. This is a spicy meatball. So, if a deal isn't imminent and getting done with Jake Guentzel, who, in your mind, is the ideal UFA to target to replace him?
You know, boy, I don't think there's an easy answer to this question because I don't think anybody's going to come in at the price point that Jake Gensel is. I think Gensel will get a pay raise if he stays in Pittsburgh, but I don't think he's going to be pricing himself out of the market like a William Nylander would. Or, I mean, there's not a lot of great options. I mean, Elias Pettersson is a free agent, but he's a restricted free agent. He's not leaving Vancouver.
Double digits.
Yeah, easy double digits. William Nylander is going to be getting double digits. Gensel, I mean, there's just no good one player option to replace him. Let's put it that way. Given what is going to be out there, I mean, you have guys like Teuvo Teravainen. Don't think he can do what Jake Gensel does. I mean, Gensel's currently leading the team in points. He has 40 points in 35 games. Teravainen has 21 and 37. William Nylander, again, William Nylander, a freak show player. Elias Pettersson, freak show player. Guys are going to be well over 10 digits or 2 digits. And I don't see either of them leaving their home markets. And really, I just think that you're going to have to buckle up, pay Jake Gensel, and keep him in Pittsburgh. If you're really about extending this window, unless you think you can pull off some kind of crazy trade. I just don't know if they have the assets after making the Carlson trade to make a trade for a big time winger to replace Gensel at the price point they want. So my thing is it's Jake Gensel or bust, and it's a huge loss if you don't sign him. Question number 8. This one's going over to Snail here. There's got to be something to Sid changing his curve, more like McCann's with them being former teammates, right? The biggest takeaway I see is Sid is never satisfied, and that's why he's a top 5 player of all time.
certainly Sid's dedication to the sport and constantly refining his game and whittling away at it and all and finding his weaknesses and putting in time. It's like it's what's made him so great. We all know that. We could pump Sid's tires all day, but yeah, this whole like Sid, and this is just goes to Sid's dedication and kind of how superstitious and stubborn he is about change. I think he stated that if they kept making his two-piece twigs that they were making from Sherwood and Reebok, he'd still be using them. But he finally got the one piece, and he's been very successful with that ever since. But yeah, I guess this news coming out that he's been fiddling around with a new curve. Sid's curve originally is not available in retail. It's close to, I think, what's called the P9 curve, which is a very it's essentially like almost like a ping pong paddle. It's very flat. There's almost no curve to it. Similar to like Gretzky's curve, I believe, as well. I actually have a P9 back here right here, but I'm not gonna go fish it out. I'm kind of tied into the computer, but very flat. So he's been experimenting with a curve, and it's come out that it's Jared McCann's curve, which has a lot of concave, a lot of bend. It's more of like a banana like shape, which is super different from what he uses. But I guess he's only been using it on the power play. And when I heard this, I love gear. I've made that known on here. I always wondered, like, why wouldn't he maybe grab like a P28 curve, which is kind of like the sniper's curve. It's like Jack Eichel's curve. Drew Doughty uses it to lift the puck. He's a defenseman, though. McDavid uses the P28. I'm just thinking, like, yeah, why wouldn't he maybe just? I wonder if he's ever pulled one of those off the racket and gave it a shot. But McCann's curve is close to the Bergeron curve. It's essentially a modified Bergeron curve, and Bergeron has kind of a flat heel with a big banana hook in it. But McCann's is modified slightly to where it has a little bit of a longer toe for shooting off the toe. And I would think that maybe Sid, there's got to be something. Brian asked, there's got to be something to Sid changing his curve more like McCann's for the power play. To me, I watch a fair bit of McCann out here in Seattle, where he gets a lot more power play time than he did in Pittsburgh. Him and Sid play in similar areas on the power play, and that's the only thing that really makes me think why he's trying out McCann's curve. McCann, more of a wrist shot guy, not really a big booming one timer. He's positioned oftentimes in the exact same spots we see Sid. He's either down low in a one timer position along the goal line, or he's more up top on his on the almost like a left winger, kind of driving the puck from the point in. They're kind of in similar spots, so maybe I'm thinking they kind of Sid definitely has a one timer, but the way that they shoot the puck is maybe similar. So I'm thinking maybe he sees that and he's like, maybe this curve on the power play specifically could work for me. He's yet to use it in a game, from what I understand, and we'll all be, of course, ISO camming in on that. It'd be interesting to see, and it'd be also interesting to see if it actually does anything. Like if they just start going in for him with that curve, we'll probably expect to see it more. But we've yet to see it yet, so no use in getting too crazy over it. But it is interesting, especially with a creature of habit like Sid, changing things up. Let's see here. Let's go to I think this is question 9, correct, for Garrett?
Yep.
Question number 9 says here, Rust recently practiced and was on a line with Eller and Puustinen. Could be the beginning of a pretty good third line. I know on the last mailbag, you guys were lukewarm at best on Puustinen, but he's been showing he can be a top 9 guy.
All right. He says, I think Snail and I are officially leading the Pussy bandwagon. All aboard. This guy needs to stay in the lineup for the time being. He's earned it the hard way. 7 points in 10 games thus far. And he's rightly or wrongly, and he rightly or wrongly has helped rejuvenate the power play. Keep him in there. And I mean, definitely don't think Putin's going anywhere. Brian Rust will, by the time this episode airs, will be back in the lineup against the Capitals tonight. So we'll see exactly how everybody's deployed, but I don't think there's any doubt that Valtteri Puustinen needs to be on the ice.
I agree. I actually have a quote here from our group chat from Garrett, and Garrett says that Valtteri Pusti got me acting up.
Whoa.
So that's I mean, from Garrett, that's high praise. That's high
I
praise.
guess. Yeah.
um, dude, I just really quickly, I don't want to be, I'm not being pessimistic here, but like, can we just like he scored one goal. Like, can we? Is it like ridiculous that maybe some of us are, and I've been there too. I mean, that Valtteri Puustinen had me acting up as well, especially that one timer he had.
Yeah, that was
That was a
disgusting.
sick goal,
They're
and he,
very, yeah.
oh, that was like pent up. He just unloaded on that. It was a
Yeah.
beautiful goal. I loved the celebration. It was so just raw and just like, man, he's been working for that one. He almost had two, but there was I think a penalty on the play, so it didn't count. But like, dude, he's had one goal and he's looked good out there. He hasn't been a detriment to the team, so I agree that he needs to stay in the lineup. He's better than like a Nieto, or a Carter or a Hinostroza. I like what he does out there. I like he seems to have a very simple job on the power play too. It's like if you get the puck, just blast it on net. They need a trigger guy. But like, dude, he's had one goal. He's had some assists. He's not the second coming of Jake Guentzel. Do you agree at all, Robbie, that the hype for Valtteri is that's just how dry the cupboards are for
That's
Pittsburgh?
what I think. It's more just how dry the cupboards are. If people are just like anybody that shows a pulse out of the minors is like a revelation, and like you see all these other guys come up for all these other teams and produce. It's just nice to have a guy that has like that seems to have a jolt, um, come up and produce for more than like or show something for more than just 3 or 4 games. He's been
Yep.
on a consistent more. I mean, he's in 10 games or plus now. Like there's definitely some staying power there as compared to maybe some other guys.
Yeah, agreed. All right, question 10 here, going over to you, Rob. And Brian asks you, what do you think is more likely to happen here before the end of their careers? Does Sid get a Selkie? Does Letang get a Norris? Or does Gino get a Hart?
I think it's the second one there. I think it's Letang getting the Norris because the Norris is notoriously a sometimes a career achievement award. I think the Selkie for Sid. I mean, I guess Bergeron's gone now, so you never know. But as long as guys like Mark Stone are hanging around there, it's going to be really tough for Sid to win that Selkie, mostly because his defensive game is so undervalued in the eyes of the voters. Hard for Gino. He'd have to have some kind of absolutely unreal season. I just don't see him being a guy that can compete with like a McDavid or a Bedard in the future here. So I think I'm going to say a Norris for Letang, even if it's just a career achievement type of an award. He's having a tremendous year this year, and you just never know when he could have one of those seasons where he hangs around the conversation long enough and there's no clear front runner that he could swoop in and steal an award. So I think um, if I had to pick one of those three choices, it would be Chris Letang winning a Norris Trophy. Question number 11 from Brian here again, going over to Snail. Would you see to be? What teams would you see be the top teams if hockey's salary cap was like baseball? So basically, what teams would you see spending a lot of money, basically to build a champion?
I think it would probably be like LA, the LA Kings,
Yeah,
the Toronto Maple Leafs,
yeah,
the New York Rangers, and I'd probably throw the Islanders in there too. I think those two New York teams could probably spend a fair bit of capital on some talent. Um, yeah, I think pretty much just the major hubs, the mark. Maybe
yeah,
you'd see like a Dallas or something like that. I don't know, but the teams that obviously come from the big markets that have star power behind them, they have, you know what I mean, like look at every other sport and whatever teams are relevant, the LA's and the New Yorks or whatever, those teams in the NHL as well.
yeah. Any of those big market teams would be right up there. That's just how it would be.
That's just how it would be. Um, Sadly, I don't think Pittsburgh would be one of those teams that have the. They're a great. Not that they wouldn't be good, but like they're just not a juggernaut. Like Toronto could, if they wanted to, Toronto could just they could just pay everybody.
Yeah,
They could be a powerhouse.
yeah.
Um, So yeah, probably those major markets. Let's go to question 12 here. This one is for Garrett as well. And Robbie will read that off for you. Brian asks, a very wild but ideal scenario for the trade deadline. The Pens trade Jake Guentzel for picks and prospects. We still make playoffs, and Jake re-signs with us in the summertime.
All right, so this is Garrett's answer, and Garrett said this is a wild, like NHL 24 trade scenario. It would be mega risky. You'd have to have some sort of handshake agreement between Dubas and Gentzel's reps that he would still be offered a 6 or 7 year deal if he returns to Pittsburgh. All in all, I think Guentzel re-ups with Pittsburgh and continues to be 87's favorite winger. And I agree with Garrett. That is a wild scenario to kind of try to come up with, but yeah, just completely wild.
Very wild. I couldn't stomach that. I don't think. I think I would
No,
either. It's like going on a break with a girlfriend. It's like I'd almost rather either just be together and miserable or just like broken up. I don't really want this like, yeah, you're leaving for a little
yeah.
while and then we'll see where things go in the summertime. Like, dude, come on, we know how that story
Yeah,
plays
and if the
out.
Penguins are even in the conversation for a playoff spot, they're not trading their top scoring player.
Yeah, there's a good chance that Jake is the reason, one of the reasons why we're in a playoff spot when we get down the stretch. There, you're not
Yeah,
gonna just get rid. They're gonna do the old. He is a rental, like he is like the trade deadline acquisition, right?
yeah,
Like, and just if he doesn't re-sign, then you cut your losses. Dubas is he knows what he's doing.
yep,
All right, I think this question here is this go to you, Rob?
yeah.
Okay, question 13. Do you like the changes they are making to the All Star Skills Competition?
I will be straight with you here, and I've not really looked at the changes yet. The skills competition is one of the better parts of the All Star Weekend. So I'm interested in seeing what they do and how it plays out. But I cannot comment too deeply on this because I have not looked too deeply into it. But I I do like the stars competition as is. So I hope they don't try to overhaul it to the point of cheapening it.
Well, they're definitely not cheapening it because did you hear that there's $1 million or something for the
Okay,
winner?
so they're definitely making it. They're gonna have some kind of incentive, which I like is a good idea. To maybe push some of these guys, but so that I do like. So even if they do that just to get a little more competition, I'm pretty chill with that.
Yeah, I think I heard they had that like Bettman went to McDavid and was like, please, will you just like do this for us? Like,
Yeah,
will you compete in these things for $1 million?"
yeah,
The All Star game has truly, if it ever had any sort of shine or lust to it, has most certainly worn off, especially for us in our older age. It's for the kids mostly. I think we could all
yeah.
agree on that. It's a fan fest type deal. But Batman is throwing. He's trying to grease someone's pockets a little bit for a little extra effort out there, and I think that that's just better for entertainment, right, Rob?
Yep, absolutely. All right, question number 14 for Brian, first Snail here. Did you ever feel bad for players of Pittsburgh sports teams? I think fans of Pittsburgh sports have some of the highest expectations for their teams, and if they're not exceeding them, the negative feedback comes in hard. And I think this is kind of true for a lot of different fan bases as well.
Those expectations just come from being great, baby. Like
Yeah.
that's what winning does. Creates expectations. It creates a standard. It creates a culture within the city. Pittsburgh has a winning culture, I'd say. I mean, you guys have had a lot of
Oh
great
yeah.
athletes and not just hockey. Like Roberto Clemente way back. The Pirates have I can't speak too much to the Pirates. I just remember Jason Kendall was a catcher for the
Oh
Pirates. He's
yeah.
one of my favorite
I was
catchers. I was a
love.
catcher
Yep.
growing up. I loved his style. I copied a lot of things from him. He had Big Ben Roethlisberger as a Steeler for his whole career, right? Like, I mean, there was a lot of winning happening. You guys don't have an NBA team, do you?
Nope.
No. Well, yeah, there's been a lot of winning, and that's just what comes with it. So that's what attracts players to come to a market like Pittsburgh. Speaking to hockey, they come to play with Sid. They come to play with Gino. They come because they know that like there's a good shot at winning every year. And yeah, I'm sure that if you stink, if you're like a Ryan Whitney who was in Pittsburgh and kind of got the boot out of there and was replaced by a guy like Chris Kuhn, it's like, dude, come on. He's like, yeah, there is some pressure, and you come in. You're not naive to that. I think you're aware that you're coming in there with expectations. That's why I think we see some quick turnover, like the Alex Galchenyuks, the Kapanins, I'm sure they hated Pittsburgh towards the end of their tenure here because they weren't producing. They were kind of a sore spot. Jeff Carter, you got to commend him. He's worn the whipping boy, uh, dunce cap very well. Would you say, Rob? Like the pressure to
Yeah,
win and his performance, he's really done a good job of wearing that.
he's
Uh,
definitely worn it with more aplomb than others have in the past in terms of not making a big drama deal out of it, kind of taking his lumps. I think
yep.
a part of it is him understanding where he's at in his career and knowing that this is probably his best chance to get ice time. He's probably not going to get traded for in the end, and this is his best chance. And if he can keep a straight head, he's going to get his chances. And he has 3 game winning goals this year, so
Yeah.
you got to. Yeah, I think he's a mature enough adult to understand uh, where everything's at and what his status is, and he's definitely worn that hat well and kept his head up through it all.
So Brian's question initially was, did you ever feel bad for players of Pittsburgh sport teams, maybe when things haven't been going well for them? And I would probably lean towards no, because I think that these guys are pro athletes. They make a lot of money. For me, it's kind of hard sometimes to feel bad for people that make a shit ton of money playing a sport that they love doing. Like, they have it pretty good. I think a bad day for them in the grand scheme of things is really not, like, in the grand scheme of bad days, is not really the worst day. Would you agree, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like, I would say it's hard probably to feel bad for them, but when things aren't going well, I mean, dude, I harp on players. I get on players. Robbie probably does too. Garrett, we all get on them, so probably not feel bad for them, like, for the reasons. I'm curious, Robbie, being someone who actually lives in Pittsburgh, you see the pandemonium that happens when someone's underperforming, when a
Mm-hmm.
coach is underperforming. Do you ever feel bad for them?
Uh, Not really.
Not really, Brian. That is the answer.
Yeah, not really.
All right, last question for part one of the mailbag after Christmas and New Year's break, coming from Brian yet again. Do any of you do the pork and sauerkraut thing on New Year's for good luck? And Garrett says yes, but I didn't know the meal was for good luck. I just figured it was another one of those long-standing holiday traditions families did. But yes, I just had some pork and sauerkraut yesterday. Robbie, I had no idea that was a thing.
So I didn't really know about the good luck thing either, but it's definitely a traditional Western Pennsylvania meal, and that's what we had for dinner last night. It's one of my favorite meals. We have mashed potatoes with it, so I love the food. I love that meal. But if it's good luck, hey, hopefully that means 2024 is coming out good. But as for the food, yeah, that's one of my favorite meals. And I'll eat that during the year too. I
I've
love it. It's one
never
of my
heard of
favorites.
that.
Oh
Never heard
yeah,
of the
love it.
sauerkraut and pork thing. But I love sauerkraut. I'll eat it
Yeah, I
out of
actually
the
didn't like sauerkraut growing up. I really didn't like sauerkraut until I was an adult. But I love it now. It's one of my. It's I absolutely love it.
good for the tummy.
Yeah.
Robbie,
Oh
quick.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
really wanted to ask you. I think we've talked about this maybe in the past, but like you spoke of Western Pennsylvania tradition here. Aside from the pork and sauerkraut, have you ever heard anybody actually say yins?
Yeah, you do. It's not as common as some would have you believe, but um, and some people do it as kind of like a sarcastic, like
Right.
a sarcastic in a sarcastic way. But I've definitely heard people say it, and I know I've said it too. But I don't say it unless it just is one of those things that you just don't know that you're actually saying it until someone points it out. But no, I definitely have heard people say yins
Like not sarcastic.
in a non ironic fashion. Yeah.
Maybe one of those things that if you're from Western Pennsylvania, after a few Yinglings, maybe one comes out accidentally.
Yeah, I say it, and then I'll catch myself saying it just out of normal speech. But there's people that say it as a normal, like it's a vocabulary. It's in their vocabulary.
Like it's written on a college
It is
paper.
a word. I can't say that I've ever seen that, but it would not have surprised me if that has ended up on a college paper somewhere.
And so yins is like y'all, right?
Yins, you all, y'all. Yeah, that's what it means.
Just wanted a little
Yep.
clarity on that.
Yep.
So, Rob, I think that wraps up the mailbag for today. We'll be back with a mailbag again on probably Thursday or Friday.
Yep.
Penguins game tonight, taking on the Capitals. We'll have a game recap for that later.
Yes.
Hope that the Penguins just keep rolling, man. Just keep collecting points. The Caps typically bring out a good
Oh yeah.
quality match between these two rivals. The future Virginia Capitals, I'll add, right?
Apparently, that's the word on the street. I mean, that's seems to be where they're going, but I guess we'll see if all the final details get ironed out on that. But as of now, they remain the Washington Capitals until further notice.
Till further notice. Well, Rob, we'll be back later with a triple header game recap. Go over a few of these games. Hopefully, it's a good game tonight, and we can have a hat trick of positivity. Unless you got any other thoughts, why don't we close this out?
I'm good. That's yep. We'll recap tonight's game and then the two others from the weekend, and we'll be all caught up on all ends as we enter 2024.
Sounds good. So, what does Garrett always say? For Robbie Noggle, I
Yep.
have been Snail, and this has been this has been a Skating Penguin Network mailbag. We'll be back with you guys later tonight. All right. Did it end?
It says it's still recording.